What's up, you guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about index funds. But before we get into what an index fund is, it's important for us to understand why they are so great. So, index funds are some of the best ways to invest, and they're actually the easiest, most accessible options out there for the general investor. Why do I say that? Well, index funds you can get into with as little as $5 if you want to, and you can essentially invest in a multitude of companies in the entire market if you want, and that's what makes them so interesting and so valuable. So what exactly is an index fund? Well, an index fund is essentially a fund, an investment, I guess, that has many different investments in it. So let me give you an example. Say I owned 5 different rental properties, and you wanted to invest in some of those rental properties with me. Well, if you wanted to invest in, say, 20% of them, or in one of the 5 rental properties, you could invest in just one of the ones that I have. However, to diversify your risk, perhaps you'd want to invest in 20% of each of my 5 rental properties so that you have a piece of all of them, and that diversifies, any risk, any downside in case that one investment or that one home that you would have invested in goes bad. So why is this important in the stock market? Well, as you guys have probably seen, especially during this pandemic, a lot of individual stocks are volatile. Well, the whole market is volatile. But if you are to invest in an entire portfolio of stocks, if 1 or 2 or 3 of them go bad, you still have hundreds of others that can perform well for you and can, balance out that risk. So the important thing about the index fund here is that it will help you diversify your risk while also playing in the market and getting some of the growth there. So that's what an index fund is. So why should you invest in an index fund? Well, there are several reasons. There's a famous story about Warren Buffett, and he essentially bet every hedge fund manager on Wall Street that they couldn't outperform the S&P 500 over a 10-year period. Now, hedge fund managers, investment bankers, all the folks that work out there in New York City, their entire job is to find a way to perform better than the S&P 500, meaning if the S&P 500 in 2020 were to grow 30%, their job is to create a portfolio of stocks or other investments, alternative investments, that would do better than that. And so he made this bet with these investors, a $1 million bet, to see if anybody could outperform the S&P 500. And only 9% of hedge fund investors could. Now, if one of the richest people and possibly the best investor to ever live is telling you that index funds or just investing in the S&P 500 and then forgetting about it is the best way to invest, we should probably be listening to that. So that's why index funds are so interesting and so valuable. The other reason that they're so popular is because they can give you a piece of all of the different companies that you want. So there's a ton of index funds out there that you've probably heard of. Some of the most famous ones are the S&P 500, which tracks the 500 largest public companies, and so there's a lot of different banks that have index funds around those. There's the Dow Jones, which has 30 of the biggest companies in the world in it. Apple is one of them. There's the NASDAQ, which if you are watching CNBC or any other investment news channel, they'll talk about the tech-heavy NASDAQ. That just has a lot of tech stocks in it. So if you were to invest in one piece of the NASDAQ, you would have one piece, or you'd have a bunch of small pieces of a lot of different companies. And so that's why the NASDAQ is really interesting. Then there's the Russell 2000, which is actually an index of 2,000 small cap companies. So companies that aren't super large or are in their growth stages or are early on in their businesses. They can be valuable because they have a market capitalization of $2 billion, so they have a lot of room to grow. Market capitalization is just how much they are worth. So there's tons of different indexes. I'll link some below that you can invest in, and you can do so at such a small amount. Some index funds start at $5 or $10, and you can go in and you buy them just like a stock, and then as the constituents of that index fund grows, so does your investment. So that's why it's really interesting. So there's 4 quick things that I want you to know about index funds. The first is index funds won't necessarily give you a return in a bear market. Just because you're diversified and you have a ton of different investments within one fund, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will always do well. You know, when the entire market fails, or if the entire market doesn't do well, like it did in earlier this year in late February and early March, you know, the entire fund will do poorly, but it will protect you from, you know, one company having a bad quarter, or one company getting a lawsuit, or one company, you know, having any sort of issue, and that's why it's very valuable. The second thing that I want you to know about index funds is they have very low fees, especially if you can find really good ones. So VGT, or Vanguard's Index Trust, is actually a really good one. There's a few that Vanguard makes around just the tech industry and investing in that if you want some of the growth that you have there. And they take very low fees. So you can find some that have a 0.05% fee. So that means for every $1,000 that you have in that stock, Vanguard will only take 5 cents from it. So it's very small. What else is very important? Number 3, they help you diversify. I think I've mentioned that already. And so it's just the easiest way to diversify without, you know, managing your own portfolio or saying you want, you know, one stock or one individual share of like 5 or 6 different stocks. This is just one easy way to buy one thing and you're already diversified. You don't need to worry about it. So that's it about index funds, guys. I hope that was super helpful for you. And if you could just do me a favor, if you found this video valuable, hit the like button below, hit subscribe. I'll have a bunch of new content coming around personal finance, how you should be investing, and where are the easiest ways for you to make money in the market. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.